Everyone told me Pakistani men would be dangerous. Everyone told me I was walking straight into a storm. They said I was naive, foolish, reckless, a girl who trusted the world too much. They warned me again and again. If you go there alone, you will not come back the same. You will be scared, you will be broken, you will be hurt. And the part that made my chest tighten was how confidently they said it. As if danger was the only story ever written about that land. As if an entire nation of men had only one face, and that face belonged to fear. Before I left, I sat in my tiny apartment, with my suitcase open, listening to the predictions of people who had never stepped on Pakistani soil. They described men who would stare, follow, whisper, take advantage. They said I would regret this decision for the rest of my life. And a small part of me believed them, because why would they lie? Why would the world lie about a place it barely knows? But something deeper inside me kept whispering that maybe the truth was different. Maybe there was a side of the story no one had ever shown me. A side hidden behind noise, behind news, behind narratives. When my plane landed, I felt my heart crawling up my throat. The airport doors opened and warm air rushed against my face. I stepped forward and saw a crowd of men waiting for their families, their friends, their passengers. For a moment everything around me blurred. And then a man, who looked tall and serious, walked straight toward me. He moved with such intention that I froze. My mind repeated every warning I had been fed for months. Danger, danger, danger. But he stopped a few steps away, and spoke in the softest voice I had heard in days. Baji, your shoelace is open, let me call a lady officer to help so you do not fall. That was my welcome. Not threat. Not stare. Not tension. Just care. Simple human care. The kind that makes your chest loosen and your eyes sting. As the days unfolded, I waited for the danger everyone promised. I waited for the moment when the mask would fall and the warnings would become real. But reality refused to bend to those predictions. Reality had its own story to tell. And it started gently, one bus ride at a time. On my second day, I climbed onto a local bus in Karachi. It was hot, crowded, alive with chatter and motion. I held onto the railing, trying not to attract attention. But within seconds a young man stood up and said, "Sister, please take my seat." Another man shifted sideways to make space. Another told the conductor, "Make sure she reaches her stop safely, she is a guest." Their tone was not flirtatious, not intrusive, not demanding. It felt like a circle forming around me, a barrier made of respect. I sat down, wondering why no one had ever told me about this version of Pakistani men. Why were these stories hidden? One night in Lahore I found myself lost in a maze of unfamiliar streets. The lights were dim and my battery was dying. Fear began to claw at my mind. I could almost hear the voices of those who warned me. This is it, this is the moment everything goes wrong. A group of men sitting by a tea stall noticed me looking around, unsure. One of them stood up, but not too close. "Baji, are you okay? Where do you need to go? We can walk behind you until you are safe." Walk behind. Not next to. Not ahead. Behind. So I would not feel pressured. So I would not feel watched. They walked several steps back, letting me lead the way. And when I reached my guest house, they said, "Please message us when you are inside so we know you are safe." Strangers. At midnight. Worrying for me like brothers. In the northern mountains, something even more. Daughter with me so I would feel comfortable. Over and over and over again I saw the same pattern. Respect. Protection. Softness. Gentle strength. The kind of masculinity that does not dominate but shelters. That does not intimidate but reassures. Made me think about the world I came from. How often I had felt watched, objectified, unsafe even among people from my own culture. How many times I had clutched my keys between my fingers while walking home. How many times I avoided eye contact. How many times fear had become a habit. Yet here in a country the world told me to fear, I was breathing differently. Walking differently. Existing differently. There was a day in Hunza that I think about often. The sky was clear, the mountains endless, the wind cold and clean. I sat on a rock overlooking the valley, feeling small in the best way. A group of local boys, maybe 18 or 19, approached. I froze again, expecting something uncomfortable, because that is what girls from my world are taught to expect. But they simply asked if I needed water. Then they asked if I wanted a picture taken. Not a picture with them. A picture of me. They took the photo, stepped back, wished me a good journey, and walked away laughing among themselves. No lingering glance. No hidden motive. Just kindness. Another time in the desert near Kholistan, my jeep broke down, and a group of nomadic herders came over. They did not crowd around. They kept a respectful distance. One of them offered tea. One offered his scarf, because the sun was too strong. They stayed until the engine started again, and waved at me like I was a long-lost cousin. After weeks of experiences like this, I began to understand something. The world likes simple stories. It likes villains, it likes heroes, it likes good and bad neatly separated. But humans are not simple. Cultures are not simple. Countries are not simple. And Pakistani men are not the monsters the world painted. They are fathers, brothers, sons, protectors. They laugh loudly, they speak gently, they care deeply. They treat a foreign girl not as prey, but as a responsibility. A guest. A sister. A trust. I once asked a man in Swat Valley why strangers treated me with so much respect. He looked at me surprised. Because you are a woman, he said. Because you are traveling alone. Because you are far from home. And because if we do not protect you, who will? It is our duty and our honor. Not a favor. Those words stayed in my heart like a lantern, lighting up all the corners where fear used to live. As my journey continued, I realized something even deeper. Danger does not belong to one nation. Safety does not belong to one nation. There are kind men and cruel men everywhere. But in Pakistan something felt different. A sense of collective responsibility. A cultural instinct to shelter a woman. A belief that her safety is sacred. When I finally prepared to fly back home, I found myself crying at the airport. Not because I was scared, but because I had spent weeks discovering the complete opposite of what I had been taught. I came expecting to build walls. I left with my heart wide open. I came expecting danger. I left with brothers. Dozens of them. Men who protected me, guided me, fed me, cared for me. Men who never crossed a line. Men who reminded me that kindness is not rare. I was just looking for it in the wrong places. On the plane I thought about every warning I had received. Every fear planted in my mind. Every story shaped by people who had never walked the streets I walked. I realized how easily we believe the worst about places we do not know. How quickly we adopt fear. How slowly we seek truth. The truth is that Pakistani men shocked me. Not with danger. Not with cruelty. But with gentleness. With humility. With a kind of respect I had never experienced before. The truth is that they made me feel protected in a way that did not take away my independence. They made me feel seen without being watched. They made me feel valued without being objectified. They made me feel like a sister. When I think back to that journey, I feel something warm blooming in my chest. A mixture of gratitude, wonder, tenderness, and disbelief. Because I went searching for danger and found dignity. I went searching for fear and found family. I went searching for warnings and found a truth that the world forgot to mention. Everyone told me Pakistani men would be dangerous. But what actually happened? What truly, honestly, unexpectedly happened is that they reminded me that goodness still exists. That respect is still possible. That safety can come from the most unexpected places. They reminded me that humanity is bigger than headlines. That stories have more than one angle. And that sometimes the truth is the exact opposite of what you were taught. I left Pakistan not afraid but transformed. Not traumatized but healed. Not alone but held. And the memories of those men, those protectors, those gentle guardians, will stay with me for the rest of my life. Because the world warned me about danger. But Pakistan introduced me to kindness. And that was the most beautiful shock of all.